Hello and welcome to Unacademy, a one-stop destination for all English medium UPSC aspirants. As a part of NCERT fundamentals, today we will be discussing a very important topic, plant physiology, from the 10th class and 11th class science NCERT. But before we proceed with the session, a very important announcement. We have 3 comprehensive batches for the year 2025. The English medium batch Achievers, the bilingual batch Summit and the Hindi medium batch Shikara. All of them started on 26th July. And there is a long-term batch Neve for the year 2026 starting on 27th July. And most importantly, all these courses are available at just 29,999 for 15 months subscription. Do enroll before it is late. Let us now continue with our session, plant physiology, starting with photosynthesis. Because photosynthesis is the most important physiological process in the plants. Photosynthesis makes a plant what it is. Photosynthesis is a source of food material for all the living organisms on earth, directly for the autotrophs and indirectly even for the heterotrophs. Then, what are the autotrophs and heterotrophs? Autotrophs are those organisms that can synthesize their own food material with the help of solar energy. Like for example, some photosynthetic bacteria, yeast and plants. And heterotrophs are those organisms that consume the food made by these autotrophs. Example, animals. Let us now understand the process of photosynthesis through which autotrophs synthesize their own food material. As we all know, light energy is very essential for photosynthesis. Then, what structure in the plants absorbs that solar energy? It is a green color pigment called as chlorophyll. Chlorophyll acts as an antenna and it will absorb the solar energy for the purpose of photosynthesis. Where is chlorophyll located? Chlorophyll is present in an organelle called as chloroplast. And each chlorophyll contains one atom of magnesium, and in the structure chlorophyll is similar to the red color pigment in the blood of animals called as hemoglobin. We have 2 types of chlorophylls, chlorophyll A which is a bluish green color pigment and chlorophyll B which is a yellowish green color pigment. And both of them has the same role, that is absorbing the solar energy for the purpose of photosynthesis. In addition to chlorophylls, we have also the other color pigments like carotenoids and phycobilins. These are the pigments responsible for the red color in tomatoes, the purple color in brinjal, etc. These carotenoids and phycobilins, they absorb the solar energy and then hand over the solar energy to the chlorophyll, and then chlorophyll helps in the photosynthesis. Means carotenoids and phycobilins indirectly help in the process of photosynthesis. Let us now go deep into the mechanism of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis occurs in 2 phases. The first phase is called as light reaction and the second phase is known as dark reaction. What is light reaction and what is dark reaction? We will discuss about them in a while, but before that, where does the photosynthesis occur? Photosynthesis occurs in an organelle called as chloroplast. Let us now understand the structure of the chloroplast. Chloroplast is a double membraned cell organelle. Means it is enclosed by 2 membranes. This is the outer membrane and this is the inner membrane of the chloroplast. Inside these membranes, there is a fluid-filled region called as stroma. Inside the stroma, we have bag-like structures called thylakoids. Look at this carefully. This is one bag-like structure called thylakoid. This is one more thylakoid, one more thylakoid. Whole together, it is one bundle of thylakoids. This bundle of thylakoids is called as granum. Granum is singular and grana is plural. This is one granum. This is one more granum. This is another granum, that is one more bundle of thylakoids. These three granums together is called as grana, and the light reaction occurs in the grana of the chloroplast. What is light reaction we are going to see in a while, but the light reaction occurs in the grana. And then the dark reaction occurs in the stroma. This is where the dark reaction occurs. Now let us try to understand what is light reaction and what is dark reaction. Firstly, the light reaction. It is called light reaction because light is compulsory for these reactions. The light reaction cannot occur during the night time. It should occur only in the daytime. And this light reaction occurs in the grana thylakoids of the chloroplast. In the light reaction, we have two steps. The first step in the light reaction is called the chlorophyll capturing the light energy. I repeat, the first step in the light reaction, chlorophyll like an antenna will absorb, trap the solar energy. Then the second step in the light reaction is photolysis of water. What is photolysis of water? Photo means light, lysis means breakdown. So, photolysis of water means breakdown of water with the help of light. Breakdown of water with the help of light is called as photolysis. The two steps in the light reaction are, the first step chlorophyll absorbing the solar energy, and the second step photolysis of water. Now, why should we break down the water? What is the purpose of photolysis of water? When the water is broken down, it gets broken down into hydrogen and oxygen, and then this hydrogen will be added to a molecule called as NADP. What is NADP? NADP is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate. If it sounds difficult for you, just a reminder, this is from just 10th class science NCERT. This hydrogen is added to NADP, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate. Then it will get converted into NADPH. NADP plus H forms NADPH. And in the light reaction, another molecule called ATP, adenosine triphosphate, is also produced. Now, what is the end product of the light reaction? At the end of the light reaction, we produced two molecules. One is NADPH, second one is ATP. With the help of light, production of NADPH and ATP is the light reaction. Fine. But why did we produce NADPH and ATP? What are they? They both are like the energy currency of the cell. Energy currency of the cell. It means a cell gains energy or spends energy in the form of ATP and NADPH. Means spending energy means spending ATP, gaining energy means gaining ATP or gaining NADPH. These are like, for example, I can compare it ATP with currency and I can compare NADP with your debit card. They both are like money of the cell, energy currency of the cell. With this step, the light reaction is completed. And now let us see what is dark reaction. The name dark reaction because the solar energy is not directly required for this particular step. Does not mean that it is not at all required. Solar energy is needed for the dark reaction also, but indirectly. It means the dark reaction can also occur during the night time, but using the molecules produced in the light reaction. In the light reaction, NADPH and ATP are produced. Using these two, the dark reaction will occur in the night time. I repeat, in the light reaction, NADPH and ATP are produced. Using these two, the dark reaction can occur during the night time. Now let us see what is the dark reaction. The dark reaction is this equation, the photosynthesis equation. Let us see that clearly here. Carbon dioxide combines with water, carbon dioxide plus water in the presence of light and chlorophyll will form glucose. This is what the food prepared. We defined autotrophs as those organisms that produce their own food material with the help of light energy. What is their food material? Glucose. How did they prepare it? With the help of light energy. From what? From the carbon dioxide and water. And then it also releases water and oxygen. Like this, in the process of photosynthesis, a plant will absorb the carbon dioxide and releases the oxygen. It is exactly opposite to what happens during the respiration. If you look at respiration, it is glucose in the presence of oxygen will form carbon dioxide and water. We can define respiration as oxidation of food material to release energy. In general, we think that respiration means inhalation and exhalation. But no, that is not called as respiration. That is called breathing or ventilation. Then what is respiration? Respiration is what happens between the inhalation and exhalation. I inhaled, I exhaled. In between these two, what is happening inside the body is called respiration. Find what happens in the body between these two. The food material we ate, that means glucose, will get oxidized. It means oxygen will get added to the glucose. Oxidation of the glucose. Here oxidation means what? Breakdown. Breakdown of the glucose to produce carbon dioxide and water. This is what we exhale. In the air we exhale, we have carbon dioxide and water vapor. This is respiration. Why did we discuss about respiration? Because photosynthesis is exactly opposite to respiration. Let us just examine this once again. Here, carbon dioxide combines with water in the presence of light will form the glucose. In the respiration, glucose is broken down in the presence of oxygen to form the carbon dioxide. Okay, so this reaction is called as dark reaction. Dark reaction. Where does the dark reaction occur? In the stroma of the chloroplast. When does the dark reaction occur? During the night time. Can it also occur during the daytime? Yes. Dark reaction just means light is not required, but does not mean light should not be there. Dark reaction can occur either during the daytime or during the night time. But it will utilize the high energy molecules produced during the light reaction. What are those high energy molecules produced during the light reaction? ATP and NADPH2. So light reaction produces ATP and NADPH. Using ATP and NADPH in the dark reaction, glucose is produced. This is the photosynthesis. the food provider for all the living organisms on the earth. Now coming to heterotrophic nutrition, it means how the other organisms that cannot synthesize their own food, how do they consume the food? And some organisms will break down the food material outside the body. For example, some fungi, what they do is they secrete some degradative enzymes so that the food will be digested outside, and then they absorb the digested food material. This kind of organisms are called as saprophytes. Then the other organisms derive nutrition from the plants, okay, without killing them. What are they? They are parasitic. Okay, these organisms consume the food from the plant, but they do not kill the plant. What are they? Parasites. Let us take the example of this dodder plant. Dodder. This is a parasitic heterotroph. If you carefully observe, you can see green color here, and also you can see yellow color wire-like growth on the green color plants. That yellow color wire-like growth is the dodder. It is yellow color because it is not having photosynthesis, it is not having the chlorophyll. If it is not having chlorophyll, it cannot synthesize its own food, so it is deriving the food material from this green color plant. Now let us see how does it derive the food material from the green color plant. Dodder belong to a genus called Cuscuta. Dodder Cuscuta. It is a leafless twinning. The dodder plant do not have leaves, so no chlorophyll, no photosynthesis. So it is heterotroph, and hence it is a parasitic plant that lives on the other green color plants. This dodder plant or Cuscuta belongs to morning glory family, that is called as Convolvulaceae. Convolvulaceae. In this, one example is Cuscuta reflexa. Try to memorize the names. Cuscuta reflexa. It is having very little amount of chlorophyll, therefore it will absorb the food through haustoria. Haustoria means what? Let us suppose this is a green plant, and let us suppose this is dodder. The dodder plant or Cuscuta, what it will do is it will send some roots called haustoria. Haustoria. What are the haustoria? They are like roots, but these roots do not go into the soil. They go into the branches of the green plant. They go into the branches of the green plant. These haustoria, like a straw, it will suck the nutrients from the plant. It is not like eating the plant, but it is eating from the plant. Like a straw, it will suck the nutrients from the plant. Eventually, the plant will become very weak and sometimes may die also. This kind of heterotrophic nutrition is observed in the dodder plant. Let us see one more example for heterotrophic nutrition, where it cannot produce the food but it will consume the food from the other sources, that is paramecium. If you remember from the school days some nostalgic memories, a slipper shaped microorganism, is it clear? A slipper shaped microorganism. What is that? That is called paramecium. Moecium. Paramecium. If you observe, it is having some hair-like projections here, isn't it? These hair-like projections are called as cilia. The hair-like projections are called cilia, and this structure here, this is called oral groove. Oral means what? Mouth. Means this is like the mouth of the paramecium, and this is called as the cytostome. Cytostome. This is like the stomach of the paramecium. And then let us suppose if the food comes here, what it will do, just as if it is brushing, just as if it is sweeping, it will send the food, the cilia will send the food like this, okay, the cilia will push the food towards the oral groove, that is towards the mouth, and then the food enters into the cytostome, and then it will form something called as a food vacuole. It will form something called as a food vacuole. This is where the food is digested. I repeat, paramecium, a slipper shaped microorganism with full of hair on it, cilia. From wherever the food comes, the cilia will push the food towards the oral groove. From oral groove, the food enters into the paramecium. It goes into the cytostome, and then it forms a food vacuole where the food is digested. One more example to discuss is amoeba. Okay, amoeba is also something that we can easily remember from our school days. Okay, amoeba is a unicellular but eukaryotic because it has a nucleus, if you observe. Unicellular, eukaryotic organism which is shapeless. Means it is almost like water. It can get any shape it wants. And okay, this amoeba is having some structures called as pseudo means false, podia means legs, means it is having some leg-like structures. If you see, these are the pseudopodia. Is it clear? Then let us suppose the food comes from here. Okay, imagine the food comes from here, and then the pseudopodia will catch the food like this, it will catch the food. And then what happens? This pseudopodia will enclose, it means it will surround the food like this, it will surround the food. And then finally the food goes into a structure. This pseudopodia will form a structure called as food vacuole. This is like our stomach, and this is where the amoeba digests the food. These are the examples for heterotrophic nutrition. So with this we completed autotrophic and heterotrophic nutrition. Now let us continue our discussion with transpiration and guttation. What is transpiration and guttation? Okay, if you remember, sometimes early morning when we go for a walk, we see a pleasant sight, that is dewdrops. Some of us think that these are the raindrops, okay, or some moisture coming from the atmosphere during the night time. But no, these are the drops which are coming from the leaf. This is the water which is coming out of the plant. Okay, why this water comes out of the plant? For two reasons. First one, the leaves, listen carefully, the leaves and the stem is having some pores. Pores means what? Small holes. What are those holes called as? Stoma. Stoma singular, stomata plural. These are the pores. Fine. Why do the plant have these pores called stomata? Do you remember photosynthesis and respiration? For photosynthesis, the plant should take up the carbon dioxide and release the oxygen. And for respiration, the plant requires oxygen and then releases the carbon dioxide. It means just like we inhale the oxygen and exhale the carbon dioxide, plants are also inhaling the carbon dioxide and exhaling the oxygen. Means there is gaseous exchange. There is gaseous exchange even in the plants. For what purpose? For photosynthesis and for respiration. This is compulsory, it is needed. If these pores are not there, how the carbon dioxide and oxygen will get exchanged? So these pores are compulsory. So in the process, the advantage is gaseous exchange, but the disadvantage is loss of water. When these pores are open, water also can be lost. So To minimize this water loss, the stomata will have doors, open close mechanism. Those are called as guard cells. A stomata is like this. What are they? They are guard cells. At the center there is a gap, that is called as stomata. Stomata is this pore and it is guarded by some cells called as guard cells. Why are they called guard cells? Because they are just like a guard. What a watchman will do in front of the gate. He will open the gate when it is needed and close it when it is not needed. The same thing is done by these guard cells. Therefore, they are called as guard cells. So these guard cells will minimize the loss of water, but how much ever you minimize, loss of water compulsorily happens from the plant. Sometimes even the required amount of water will go, but most of the times what happens, the excess amount of the water goes out of this process. So the release of excess amount of water from the plant, I repeat, the release of excess amount of water from the plant is called as two mechanisms, transpiration and guttation. Plants can get rid of excess water by a process called transpiration and guttation. What is the difference? The primary difference is, in the transpiration, the water goes in the form of vapor. In the guttation, the water goes in the form of liquid water, like drops. This is what the dew drops that we see on the flowers and leaves early in the morning. Gaseous exchange for photosynthesis and respiration occurs through stomata. We have already discussed. This is like our nostrils. Gaseous exchange for photosynthesis and respiration, that is taking up carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen, happens through this stomata. So stomata are the pores for two things. One is gases, that is carbon dioxide and oxygen, and also for water. Okay, for the entry and exit of carbon dioxide and oxygen, and also for the water. The excess water goes out in the form of vapor is called as transpiration, and the excess water from the plant goes out in the form of liquid water is called as guttation. That is what we see in the form of dew drops. Okay, as it may lead to the loss of large amount of water, the plant closes the stomata when it does not require the carbon dioxide. Okay, during night time when it is not requiring the carbon dioxide, the stomata, the guard cells will close the stomata. The opening and closing of the pores is the function of these guard cells. Okay, this process is called guttation. Now let us see the difference between guttation and transpiration. Before we see the difference, what is the common point between the two? The common point between the two is release of the excess water from the plant. But the first difference is transpiration is in the form of water vapor, guttation is in the form of liquid water. Next, transpiration occurs through stomata and lenticles. One more word, memorize the word lenticles. What are the lenticles? Lenticles are the stomata present on the stem. It means if the stomata are present on the leaves, they are called stomata, and if they are present, if the pores are present on the stem, then they are called lenticles. So the transpiration occurs from the stomata and lenticles, whereas the guttation, that dew drops are coming out through the hydatodes. Hydatodes, memorize the word. This is second difference. Hydatodes are another type of pores. Is it clear? Then, in the transpiration, it contains only water. Minerals are not being lost. Pure water comes out in the form of water vapor in the transpiration. But in the guttation, along with the liquid water, sometimes sugars, amino acids and salts may also be lost from the plant. In the process of guttation, sugars, amino acids and salts may also be lost from the hydatodes. So this is another difference. One more difference is Transpiration occurs usually in the high temperatures and daytime, but guttation occurs during the cold temperature or night time, isn't it? When do we see that dew drops on the leaves? We see the dew drops on the leaves in the early morning. It means when are they released? Cold temperatures, night time, whereas transpiration increases during the daytime. One more difference is in the dry conditions transpiration occurs, and in the humid conditions the guttation occurs. That is the reason why in the rainy season we see the guttation more prominently, isn't it? More than in the case of summer. Okay, so this is transpiration and guttation. What is the common point between both of them? The loss of excess water from the plant. Now let us see, okay, the transport, material transport in the plant. Why do we require material transport? For two reasons. First point, leaves synthesized the glucose, isn't it? Through what process? Photosynthesis. Now, this glucose should go from the leaves till the roots. Agreed? Because the food prepared by the leaves, the kitchen for the plant is in the leaves. The food prepared, the glucose prepared in the leaves should be supplied to the entire plant up to the roots. This is one requirement. Second requirement, water. From where do water enter into the plant? Through the roots. Okay. Do the plants require the water only in the roots, or the water is needed in the entire plant? Water is needed in the entire plant. Even the leaves need the water. So, when the water goes from the roots to the leaves, these are the two types of transport we require. Food material, that means glucose, from the leaves to the roots, and water from the roots to the leaves. Okay, so this is the material transport within the plant. And okay, the water transport occurs through the xylem, and the food transport occurs through the phloem. Memorize the words. The water gets transported through xylem, and the food material, that is glucose, will get transported through the phloem. Then, what is xylem and phloem? Where are they located in the plant? Look at here, listen this carefully. Imagine like this is the plant, right? This is the plant, and this is the stem. Listen carefully, more focus here. This is the stem. I mean cross section of the stem. I hope you observe. We have cut the stem here, and this is the cross section of the stem. And if you observe this structure, in this structure, okay, this is called as xylem. Okay, you have the xylem here, this purple color patch, okay, is called as xylem. This pink color one is called as phloem. Okay, see, this is xylem and this is phloem, right? And this is the cross section of the stem. Is it clear? And if you observe, imagine this xylem and phloem just like a straw. Just like you drink some cold coffee or something with the help of a straw. Just imagine this like a straw, like this. Across the stem you have them. Is it clear? Across the stem. So, water goes like a straw, water is sucked. Okay, for example, from the roots, the water goes to the leaves through a straw called as xylem. Next, from the leaves to the roots, the water goes in another type of straw called as phloem. I hope it is clear. Okay, so look at here, the food material from the leaves goes to the roots through a straw-like structure called xylem. Okay, and sorry, phloem. Food through phloem, right? And then, okay, from the roots to the leaves, from the roots to the leaves, the water goes through xylem. Okay, and this is this purple color patch is called as xylem, and this pink color patch is called as phloem. So this is like one straw and this is like another straw. Through the straw called xylem, the water transports. Through the straw called phloem, the food material is transported. This is the material transport from the plant. The plants also transport the material. The plants also transports the material within their body like animal. The water absorbed by the roots is supplied by the xylem, and the food prepared by the leaves is supplied to the remaining parts of the body by the phloem. Now, let us try to understand how the water transport occurs, the mechanism of water transport. The water transport occurs through a process called osmosis. This is very important. Even like physics also, some general day-to-day physics is important. In that context also, you have to know the process of osmosis. What is osmosis? You all know a solution will contain two components, solvent, like for example water, and solute, like for example sugar water. So in the sugar water, sugar is a solute, water is a solvent. And what is osmosis? Osmosis is movement of the solvent. What moves here? It is not the solute. What moves here is solvent is moving. That is water is moving. Solvent is moving. From where to where? From the place where the solvent is high to the place where the solvent is low. Okay. Let us suppose this is a container. In this container, okay, here there is high solvent, more solvent, less solute, means this is a dilute solution. More water, little sugar. More water, little sugar. Less solute, less means dilute solution of sugar, isn't it? And in this compartment, lesser solvent, I mean little water, and more solute, that is more sugar. It means it is more concentrated solution. And these two compartments are separated by a semi-permeable membrane. Then the water, because solvent goes, it means water goes from the place where solvent is high to the place where the solvent is low. Movement of the solvent from the place where it is high to the place where it is low. Solvent is moving from the place where it is high to the place where it is low. It means water moves from dilute solution to concentrated solution. Remember, this water moves from dilute solution to concentrated solution. Now let us see how the plant will absorb the water. Look at here. Okay, this is the root. This is the root. And this is the soil water. Soil water means the water which is present in the soil. And this soil water, concentration is low. Low concentration. Means what? It is a dilute solution. Means solvent high, solute low. Compared to what? Compared to a cell in the root cell. What is this? It is a root cell. Inside the root cell you have cytoplasm. We are calling this as cell sap. What is there inside the root cell? Cell sap. That is also a solution. Soil water is a solution. Cell sap is a solution. Which is more concentrated? Cell sap is more concentrated. And osmosis is movement of the solvent from the dilute solution to concentrated solution. It means from the place where there is more solvent to the place where there is less solvent. So what happens? Soil water enters into the root cell. Soil water enters into the root cell. Now, okay, see, soil water is dilute. Cell sap is concentrated. So what happens? Water enters into the first cell of the root. Now, water entered into the first cell. So, the first cell sap, the cytoplasm in the first cell became dilute because water entered into it. When water, for example, you have sugar solution, pour more water into it, what happens? It will become diluted. So, the cell sap in the first cell will become diluted. So, the second cell will have more concentrated cytoplasm, cell sap. So, now what happens? Water goes from the first cell to the second cell through osmosis. And then the second cell cytoplasm is diluted. Then the water goes from the second cell to the third cell to the fourth cell to the fifth cell. Like this the water goes up. This is called root pressure. This is called as root pressure. This is how the plant will absorb the soil water through the roots. Fine, but some trees like some eucalyptus trees and all, they are so tall, meters of height. Do you think only osmosis can reach the water from the root to some meters of height leaves? It is not possible. Only osmosis cannot take the water. This force is not enough to carry the water from the roots to the leaves which are meters of distance away. So, okay, from the downside you need, okay, pulling force. Is it clear? Pulling force, like a straw, like pulling force that is given by this osmosis. Is it clear? Okay, and from the top, from the leaves, you also need another pulling force. Is it clear? From the leaves you need one more pulling force that comes through the transpiration and guttation. Is it clear? Okay, so let us give it a reading. Soil water is more dilute than the cell sap. Therefore, water will pass into the root hair by osmosis. The entry of the water dilutes the contents of the root hair vacuole so that it will become more dilute than the next cell. So, the water passes on to the neighboring cell, to the next cell, which in turn becomes diluted. This process goes on. The osmosis generates root pressure, helping the water enter into the xylem. But as I told you now, this xylem like a straw, I told you, look at here, this xylem like a straw will take this water through osmosis till the leaves, but only osmosis pressure is not enough. You need one more pressure. That pressure comes from the transpiration. It means when the water gets evaporated through the leaves, that will give a sucking, pulling force, okay, that will help to drag the water, that will help the leaves to drag the water which is coming in the through this xylem. The evaporation of water through leaves is called as transpiration. Water evaporates through stomata of the leaves and lenticles of the stem. The evaporation creates the main pull of water from above. The pulling force from below is osmosis. The pulling force from above at the leaves is transpiration. While root pressure gives a variable and minor push from the below, this results in a continuous column of water in the xylem vessels called transpiration stream. This stream will not break because of the continuous molecular attraction. What do you mean by this? Let us suppose you are drinking some cold drink through the straw. Okay? Through the straw, the water comes like a continuous column, isn't it? It will not break in between. You are not drinking the cool drink as one drop, few seconds pause, and then one more drop comes. It is not happening. A continuous stream will come through the straw. Why? Attraction between, molecular attraction between water. Between the water molecules there is a molecular attraction. So this stream will not break. Like a continuous stream, the water goes from the roots to the leaves. For example, an oak tree can transpire as much as 900 liters of water per day. In one day, 900 liters of water is getting evaporated in the form of transpiration. Therefore, the areas of the forest significantly affect the degree of water saturation above them. For example, in a forest there are oak trees. Every oak tree is releasing 900 liters of water per day. So that forest air is highly saturated with water. Now, the newly coming clouds, even if they bring a little more moisture, it will trigger a heavy rainfall. Okay, so that when the air currents bring air which is already nearly saturated in the forest area, what made the air in the forest area saturated? The water vapor released in the form of transpiration by these trees. 900 liters of water vapor per day. The air is saturated. So if the newly coming air current brings a little moisture also, it becomes fully saturated and comes down as rain. This is the reason why forest areas have higher rainfall when compared to the non-forest areas. That is the reason why we should protect the forests. Right. Now, transport of the minerals. Now let us see how the minerals will get transported. Okay. The mineral salts are obtained from the soil solution through root hairs. And for example, sodium chloride, okay, will be absorbed in the form of sodium and chloride ions. Okay, it means minerals are absorbed in the form of ions, charged ions. Fine. Okay. How do these ions get transported? Do they get transported through a process called as osmosis? No, it is not osmosis. This is another mechanism, interesting mechanism. Look at here. This is a plant cell. Imagine a plant cell. In the plant cell, there is a structure called as a pump. There is a structure called pump. Why this is called pump? Because here the flow happens from low energy to high energy. That is the reason why we have to call it as pumping, because it occurs from the low energy to high energy. For the low energy to high energy, from the low concentration to high concentration, we need energy, isn't it? If you have to send something from the low concentration to the high concentration, you need energy. The energy comes in the form of ATP. Using ATP, okay, for example, sodium ion. Using ATP, sodium ion is transported from its low concentration to its high concentration. Okay, I repeat. Let us try to understand this process once again. This is a plant cell and it is having a pump, and let us suppose you have Na plus Cl minus here. You have Na plus Cl minus in the plant cell also. Where do we have them in the high concentration? We have them in the high concentration inside the plant cell. The plant cell is already having sodium and chloride. Now wants to take up more sodium and chloride. Means now the sodium ion and chloride ion should come from the low concentration. From the low concentration to high concentration. If you want to send anything from low to high, you need energy. So, utilizing ATP energy, sodium ion and chloride ion will be pumped into the plant cell. This is how the plant cell will take up the minerals like NaCl in the form of Na plus and Cl minus. Magnesium sulfate MgSO4 in the form of Mg2 plus SO4 minus. Mg2 plus SO4 minus, SO4 2 minus. Okay, all these are ions. Na plus, Cl minus, Mg2 plus, SO4 minus, these are ions. All of them are low concentration outside the plant cell. In high concentration inside the plant cell. Now they should go from low to high. For that you need energy. So these minerals are pumped into the plant cell with the help of ATP energy. This is how the minerals will get transported. Okay. Then transport of the materials. I already told you the transport of material, food material, that is the glucose, occurs through phloem. Water transport through xylem, food material transport through phloem. Water through xylem, food through phloem, right? Okay. Now, with that we completed about the transport of material. I remind you, we are discussing plant physiology, and in the plant physiology we have already completed photosynthesis, transport of water and minerals, and also the food material, okay, and transpiration and guttation process. Photosynthesis, transpiration, guttation, transport of the water, minerals and food materials. Now let us see one more topic in the plant physiology, that is the phytohormones. Phytohormones means what? Plant hormones. Phytohormones are the plant hormones. Firstly, what are the hormones? Hormones are signaling molecules. Hormones are the signaling molecules. They are called the messengers. So, if any mechanism should occur in the plants, the signal should come from the hormones. Okay. We have 5 hormones in the plants. Importantly, we have other hormones also, but these are important. They are gibberellins, auxin, cytokinin, ethylene, the fruit ripening hormone, and the abscisic acid. Now, let us say what is their role. Firstly, germination. Germination means what? The plant coming from the seeds. The plant growing from the seed is called germination. Next, growth and maturity. Plant growing and the plant getting matured. Next, flowering means the coming of the flowers. Flowering. Fruit development. The development of the fruits. Next, abscission or senescence. Abscission or senescence means in the fall season the leaves will fall down. That is called senescence. We call it as leaf senescence. Or the ripened, fully ripened fruit will fall down. Okay, what is that? Aging process. That fruit got old aged. It is the aging process. It is abscission, a negative phenomenon. Okay, disintegration, and it will fall down. That is called abscission or senescence. This is old age mechanism. Next, seed dormancy. Seed dormancy means a seed in the summer season or when it is in the dry conditions will not germinate. It will stay in a temporary inactive stage called as dormancy. That is called seed dormancy. Now, to make this phytohormones easy for you, I tried to keep it in the form of this table. These are the names of the hormones, and these are the different mechanisms like germination, plant growth and maturity, flowering in the plants, fruit development in the plants, okay, ripened fruits falling down, leaves falling down, that is old age symptoms, that is senescence or abscission, seed dormancy, that is seed in the inactive conditions during the dry seasons, These are the 5 mechanisms. Now let us see the role of each hormone in all these things. First, gibberellins. Do they help in the germination? Yes, gibberellins help in the germination. Other 4 hormones, no, they do not have any role in the germination of the seed. Next, okay, growth and maturity. Gibberellins, auxins, cytokines help in the growth and maturity of the plant, but ethylene and abscisic acid, okay, ethylene also helps in the ethylene and abscisic acid do not have any role in the growth and maturity of the plants. Okay, next, flowering. Okay, gibberellins, auxins, cytokinin, ethylene, all of them help in the flowering, but abscisic acid will not help in the flowering. Next, fruit development. Okay, these 4, gibberellins, auxins, cytokine, ethylene, play a role in the fruit development but not the abscisic acid. Next, abscission, that is senescence, old age, leaves falling down, fully ripened fruits falling down, etc. Okay, gibberellins, auxins, cytokines, no role, and actually only ethylene and abscisic acid. Ethylene is a fruit ripening hormone, isn't it? Ripening is also in old age, because after ripening, what is the next stage? After ripening of the fruit, the next stage is nothing but rottening of the fruit. That is the old age symptom that comes under abscission. So, ethylene and abscisic acid helps in the senescence process. And dormancy. The first 4 hormones, gibberellin, auxin, cytokine, ethylene do not help in the dormancy, but abscisic acid helps in the dormancy. Okay, so this table will clearly explain the function of different hormones. Okay, then after that, moving on to the pollination. What is pollination? Pollination is a reproduction in the plants. Okay, pollination is 2 types, self-pollination and cross-pollination. In the self-pollination, the pollen grain from the anther means what? Anther is the male part of the flower, and stigma is the female part of the flower, Transfer of the pollen grain from the anther to the stigma is called pollination. Transfer of the pollen grain from the anther to the stigma is called as the pollination. Pollen from the anther deposited on the stigma. Now, this pollination is 2 types, self-pollination. In the self-pollination, what happens is, a single plant will have a flower. Here itself you have anther. In the same flower you have stigma. So the transfer of the pollen grain from the anther to the stigma of the same flower or the same plant, this is called as self-pollination. This is called self-pollination. But, okay, now let us suppose this is the male plant. This is having the anther and this is the female plant, and here you have the stigma. Then the pollen grain will transfer from the anther of the male plant to the stigma of the female plant. That is called cross-pollination. So like this, pollination is 2 types, self-pollination, cross-pollination. Okay, and these pollinations, we have different agent. What is this agent? Agent is nothing but the carrier, something that will carry the pollen grain from the anther to the stigma. What carries the pollen grain from the anther to the stigma? In anemophily, the pollen grain is carried by the wind. In zoophily, the pollen grain transferred from the anther to the stigma through animals. When the animals graze the plants, they carry this pollen grain. Entomophily, entomology means insects. When the pollen grain is carried by insects, then it is called as entomophily, like honey, bee, etc. Hydrophily, pollen grain transferred by water. Malacophily, the pollen grain transferred by snails. Okay, and chiropterophily, pollination by the bat. Okay, the flying mammal bat will carry the pollen grain. These are the different agents of pollination. This is briefly about the plant reproduction. Now, moving on to tropism. What is tropism? Did you ever see the touch me not plant? When you touch it, the plant will move like this. And this is a sunflower. The sunflower is facing towards the sun. Okay, and this is a creeper. Okay, this is moving towards the support. Wherever you have the support, that towards that it is moving. This type of movement is called as tropism. Movement is called as tropism. Okay, for example, phototropism, movement in the direction of the light. Sunflower moves in the direction of the light. Phototropism. Geotropism, example, roots. Okay, in response to gravity, roots will move down, roots will not go up. Why? They are moving in the direction of gravity. Next, chemotropism, in response to some chemicals. If there is a chemical, the plant will move in that direction. Hydrotropism, movement in the direction of water. Wherever there is water, there it goes. Thigmotropism, mechanical support. These two are the examples of thigmotropism, movement in the direction of support. If you keep the finger, plant moving in that direction. If you give a mechanical support, the creeper growing in that direction. This is called as tropism. Okay, we also have plant respiration, but that is very similar to that of the animals. Okay, and we have seen the equation of the plant respiration, that is exactly opposite to that of the photosynthesis. With this, we completed all the important aspects of the plant physiology. Thank you. That's all for this session.